my channel, I'll be working on my E36 325 IS. This is a 1993 BMW, and I'll be working on the steering rack and the steering pump. They are leaking. We're gonna go through it, see if we could either rebuild or we need to replace. Let's get started. First thing first, I'm gonna drain the oil, which I already did. I disconnected the hose, connects to the steering pump, so all the oil is drained. The car is on ramps, and then you want to make sure the steering is straight. We have the steering rack right here, which leaks on the passenger side, right about here, and we have the steering pump, which is right here in the front of the car, and it was leaking somewhere here. Alright, in order to remove the steering rack, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the tie rod right about here. There's a washer that is bent for safety, so I'm going to have to hammer this straight so I could unbolt this bolt here. I have to do the same thing on the driver's side. There are two bolts, one in here and one on the other side that's holding the steering rack. This bolt has a nut on top, so you gotta have to have a socket and a wrench to get it out. Also, there are a couple of holes that we need to remove. And the other thing that's holding the steering rack is the steering column shaft that connects to the rack, which is on the back of the, towards the center of the car somewhere. This is a steel steering rack. If you follow this here back, right about here. It's a little bit hard to record. Let me see if I could get the light in there. Yep, right there. So this bolt and nut has to come out, and then you have to pry this open. Once this is pried open, and this steering rack will come out easily. Most likely have to replace the boots. The driver's side is good, but the passenger is ripped, but I'll go ahead and replace both of them. From the looks of it, there is also a leak down somewhere here. Most likely this steering rack is no good. I'm gonna have to replace it. Alright, I'll go ahead and unbolt all this and and off the camera, and then let you guys know how it goes. So the steering is almost out. One thing I forgot to mention, there's a connection hose that goes to the steering pump. We need to also remove this. So we got two hoses to remove. One is the reservoir, and one is the one that goes to the steering pump. And this is a 22 millimeter wrench, so I'll get that removed, and the steering is almost out and should come out, and then we'll check it out on the table. Alright, the steering rack is out. Correction on the socket or the wrench size to remove this hose from the steering pump. It's a 19 millimeter, not 22. One thing is I had a little bit difficulty taking it out because of this bar here. So I loosened that up, and I was just able to take the steering rack without any issue. Alright, now we're gonna take out the steering. Gotta release the tension on the belt. Use the crowbar here for now. Gotta remove this hose. It's already loose. The oil is drained. Fluid for the steering. This goes to the reservoir. Just pay attention. This screw or bolt with the hole is bigger than the other connection that goes to that comes from the rack to the pump here, which is on somewhere around here. So you want to make sure you put the same bolt in the same place so we don't mix them. The other one's here. I already took this off, so I'm gonna put it back so we don't lose it. There are a few bolts I gotta take out. I'm gonna do that off camera and then show you guys which screws or bolts needed to replace or remove. So there are two long bolts on top that looks like this, and there's one short bolt somewhere here. It's attached to the housing. So this is, if you could see, this is loose, so I just have to pull the top bolt out and the steering will come out. There you go. Steering pump is out. All right. I'll go ahead and clean this one too. Let's see if something we could rebuild or we need to replace. Off the camera, I removed the reservoir. I'm gonna be replacing this hose here. Ordered one. It came from Beamer World. I'm gonna put all the part number. It comes with the crush washer and the clamp. So the way to remove it is there's a, if you see in there's a number 10 socket. I just had to loosen that up, and because all the hoses are disconnected, I just had to pull it out through here. I don't have the main, the original intake box, so it was easy to pull out. You might have to take this off in order to take the reservoir out of the place. I will go ahead and clean this up and replace it. All right, we have our new steering rack here. The old one I was not able to save because of a couple of reasons. One, there was a damage on the shaft. Second, it was really hard to find the correct rebuild kit for that unit. So I just went ahead and ordered a new rack for the steering. The steering rack, it does not come with the hose, so all this part and this hose here, it's a separate part number. I'm gonna list all the part number here. So those are ordered, it's here. The only difference I see so far is on the original steering rack, there's a 2 mounting hole that connects this assembly to the rack and pin steering rack. However, on this one there's only one, so you could see this side is not connected, but it's pretty solid. I'm probably not gonna do anything and just install this into the car. Second thing, I did order new reservoir, the hose for that. Again, I'm gonna list the part numbers. So one of the things I had to order was this joint, universal joint they call. This is where the steering rack connects to the steering column. This is the joint you have to, if you go back to my in the beginning of the video, this is the area that we have to disconnect in order to remove the steering rack. Why am I replacing it? Because I did a little bit of inspection on here and I see a lot of cracks on this old rubber. So in order to not go back and do all the work just to replace this in the future, I did go ahead and order part, and again, I'm gonna list the part somewhere here or in the comment. Um, so this is the part that goes here, just like that, and then same way on the other side it goes here and gets bolted down. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the car and continue with the installation of this rack and the reservoir. On a separate video, I'm gonna have the steering pump rebuilt, and gonna go over with all the part numbers and what needs to be done to rebuild the steering pump, and then I'm gonna show how I'm gonna put it back in the car. We have the rack dry fitted right now. Nothing is bolted right now, just in position. This bar has to come out. I loosen it up. I disconnected from top here before to remove the rack, but looks like I might have to just remove it completely, install this, and then put this bar back on. We have the rack in, secured, bolts are in, the steering column is connected. I have to connect the link to the rod to the end tie rods on both sides. Steering pump is not in yet. I'm still waiting for the rebuild kit to put in. Going back here, this is the new joint. I installed it on the steering rack first, and then I put it back into the steering column right there. I don't know if you could see it. So this is all secure. I'm gonna put the sway bar back on that I removed, and then install the tie rods, and the steering rack is installed. Also, I'm gonna install the reservoir. Right now it's not there. Okay, tie rod is installed. I jacked the car so I could push the wheel out so I could put this in, tighten this. I'm gonna try to go a few more threads so the wheel is sitting almost semi-straight, and I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. That's about there. Looking at the tire, it's about right, close to what we had. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side as well. Now we're doing on the driver's side. I lift the car up on this side, push the wheel out so I can put the rod in. Don't forget to put this bushing inside, and there's a direction. It's directional, so you want to make sure you put this in the right direction. The flat side sits on the side where the nut is, just like that. So I'm going to push this out a little bit more, line up the rods. Just like that. And I'm using a 15 millimeter. clockwise. And don't forget to untwist this rubber because it's tight here. As you turn this rod, you twist this so you could hold this in place, just like this, and then you turn the knot like this. Alright, now we're on top of the car. That's the location where the steering reservoir goes. There's a bolt right there. Once we put the reservoir in there, we could tighten that to secure the container. So this is a reservoir here. So this side goes to the pump, and this side there is a hose there that comes from the steering rack. The smallest hose, the smaller hose. Let me find it somewhere. Right here. That connects to the bottom of that. I'm gonna slide this in, and then I should be able to secure all the hoses from the down below. Alright, we got the pump here. We have two long bolts and one short one that mounts this steering pump. So I have this here, I'm just gonna put it in so I could hold this in place. See, so the bolts are in. I need to tighten this. There's one more small, shorter bolt. That goes right here, and that secures the pump. Right, we got the pump in place. There are two longer bolts that's on the mounts on top, and one short bolt here. This is right now it's not secured. I have to tighten the bolt. Also, there are two hose connection, one coming from the reservoir right here. They're two different sizes, so it can be so yeah, there are two different sizes. You won't mix them up. So you have the washer on both sides. This one will go here on the bottom of the pump, and this one will go on the side of the pump. All right. I'll go ahead and secure everything, connect all the hoses, and then show you guys how it looks like. Also, I'm gonna put the belt on. All right, all done. So we got the belt in. All the bolts are tight. All right, we're gonna go through the bleeding instruction. The car is on stand, so we don't have any pressure on the wheels. We don't have any weight. For the rack opinion I purchased, it's recommended to use a CHF11S steering fluid. We're gonna top it off, and then we're gonna have somebody in the car going from stop to stop till we get all the air out. So if you could see, the bubbles are coming out. As soon as the bubble stops coming out, and then that's the time you could start the car. So as we going stop to stop, the oil level is going down, so we want to make sure we top it off. So I just topped off the fluid. And it looks like I don't see a bubble. You could probably go ahead and start the car. So the instruction is basically, once you start the car, you want to make sure this wheel is centered, and then start the car. You go 45 degree each direction, 45 degree of the wheels each direction, left and right, for 2 to 3 times. And you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on the fluid level, because as soon as you start, that fluid level might go down drastically. So you want to make sure you add once you do 2-3 times 45 degree, and then you want to do a couple times all the way from lock to lock, from end to end. You want to make sure you don't hold it at the end, so you don't put strain on the steering pump. And once you do that, and fluid level stays constant, and that's pretty much the end of the bleeding process. So once that's done, you turn off the car. If the fluid level stays as is, then it's good. If you see coming up, that means there's still air in the system. You want to repeat the same procedure until all the air is out and it's completely bled out. All right.